Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, General Dunford, for being here. I've been a member of Congress now for a little over 6 years, and as a member, I've made about 5 trips to Afghanistan. It's like so many on this committee who feel how important it is that we do go there. And in our last trip, we were so fortunate to meet with you, and I thank you for meeting with us. It was part of a mother's delegation in behalf of Mother's Day, and we go with a dual track, really, of getting an update on the situation on the ground, but also we have a unique opportunity and do seek out ways in which we can connect with Afghan women to see how their lives have changed as a result of our presence there. And in every instance, we really meet remarkable women. We've met cadets at the country's military academy. We've met staff members at the U.S. Embassy in Kabul. We've met university students. We've met government officials. We've met community leaders. So it's clear that that as a result of all of our presence there, we've created a more open society, and that women are more fully participating in many meaningful ways in their country's life. And I think I always come away thinking how important it is. We take pride in these gains. I think we should rightfully take pride in these gains, but we all know how fragile they are, like so many other things in the country. And I hear always a really deep concern from the women we meet with as to what will happen as our presence, as we draw down. They are so grateful for their ability to contribute to their country's life, but deeply concerned. And I think the upcoming elections are critically important to the future of women's participation in their country's lives. And I think that it's so important that women, Afghan women, are fully able to vote and participate in a choice about the future of their country without fearing for their own security. So I was pleased to read in your written testimony about your confidence in the Afghan National Security Force's ability to support a secure election. And the biannual 1230 report mentions that there are approximately 22,000 polling centers and stations in Afghanistan for use during the April election, but that in November, the ANSF had only 2,000 women members, which you referenced, to assist with security operation during the elections. So can you outline, and you also mentioned an additional 13,000 people that have been recruited. So can you talk about what we're doing to make sure that all these polling stations and centers are places in which women can go to vote? The report also said, what's at stake here? Quote, failure to recruit more women could deter female voter turnout, harming the legitimacy of those elected to office in 2014. So it's about a number of things, but in particular the legitimacy of the government going forward. And if women are not able to participate in a meaningful way, that will really be drawn into question.
Thank you, Congresswoman. And we consider successful elections, the words we use are inclusive, transparent, and credible. And the inclusive part is the one you're obviously addressing, the one that we mostly focus on from a security perspective. You mentioned 20,000 polling centers. About 40% of those will be women only. So that's one way that we'll be able to see an opportunity for women to vote. Those 13,000 female searchers will allow women to vote at the polling stations and the polling centers. There's 6,775 polling centers across the country. There'll be access for women at those centers. But what you really talked about are the stations. Those are the places in some of the smaller areas and so forth. And again, 40% of those will have access as a result of these 13,000 women that have been trained now to be female searchers and really be there to make sure that the polling centers are accessible to women.
Do you feel you have the support of the Karzai government in this? Is this something we're having to take on? What is your sense of that?
Congressman, you'll be glad to know that we did not have anything to do with the 13,000 female searchers. This was a program that we certainly supported and our Congress supported, but the Minister of Interior is the one that has responsibility for the elections. He's the individual that set up the program to train the female searchers and to make sure they were properly distributed, and he worked with the Independent Elections Commission to make sure that the polling centers were available to women, and that 40% I mentioned to you that were women only would be there for inclusive elections. So I very much see this as an Afghan-owned election. We've certainly provided some logistics support, but in terms of accessibility to women, I think that's very much been an initiative by the governor of Afghanistan, and I think there's a recognition by the governor of Afghanistan that to look back on these elections and say they were successful will in part be determined by the inclusivity to include women's participation.
Thank you, General. My time is up.
Mr. Whitman.